Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Attack on Titan anime episode review. This one is going to be for Season 3, Episode 1, which is called Smoke Signal. I asked you guys last week if you wanted me to review Attack on Titan Season 3, and I got a good few responses, so I'll at the very least, get started with it and we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, start of Season 3 hasn't been in any way as long of a delay between Season 2 and 3 as it was between 1 and 2. But, it's been long enough that I didn't rewatch Season 2, so I'm a little, out of the loop on Attack on Titan. I don't remember everything that happened in Season 2, but I think this episode did an okay job at kind of setting up where we are, that the key events are that obviously the Beast Titan was introduced, Krista is Historia, and Historia is important within the city, knows the secrets of the walls, and it sets up the plot of this season because now we're suddenly seeing different groups within the city, I suppose, try and stop the scouts from actually unearthing the full mystery. That this is something that they want to kind of keep buried, potentially kill Krista. I suppose this is where it's about, once we get introduced to all the different factions at play, what exactly is who's everyone working for. We'll eventually get to what exactly is going on. I thought it was a solid episode. I don't think it was anything mind-blowing. I think the end of it was definitely very, very intense. It definitely had that classic Attack on Titan feel of oh look, someone just got brutally murdered, except not by a Titan, this time by a human. And I suppose that's what this arc is going to be about. This is about different human groups, killing each other over these secrets. And the Titan stuff is still involved, it's just a little bit put on the sidelines for now, in that the information ultimately relates to the Titans with the walls, and we know there are Titans within the walls. And I assume there's deeper mysteries, just because once again they started a season with Eren asking the question, what's outside the walls? What's beyond the sea that is outside the walls? Why do we live here, and why don't we know anything about the rest of the world? And potentially the higher-ups, the people who are the royal family, the different kind of high-up people, the secrets. If they know about how the walls were made, they'd know why they were made in the first place, and why the city is walled off compared to everywhere else. So, you can see where, even though it seems like we're taking a slightly different direction from it being humanity versus the Titans, to tell this story that is a bit more human character focused. And it seemed like what they were doing here was primarily setting up that it's going to be sort of an actual battle plus a battle of wits, in a way, between Levi and someone he used to know, Kenny the Ripper, who is this mass murderer within the city. And he seems to be the leader of this faction of warriors similar to Levi, except he uses 3D maneuver gear with guns instead of 3D maneuver gear with swords. So that's just a cool dynamic there, swords versus guns. And one seems like there's the obvious advantage, but, there's the skill level of using a sword. We'll see how it goes. So I like that as a setup for Levi's going to have a bit more of a character arc. They're going to relate this, I assume, to his backstory a bit. And we'll get into that. I think we already had the was it OVA, or was it like a little side anime that covered Levi's, at least part of his backstory? This seems to be a different section of it. But I do like that as an element, and we got to see the scouts execute one plan where, again, we saw John, I keep forgetting how to pronounce his name, him have to be Eren's body double, and Armin has to be Krista's body double, which you feel really bad given what happened to him, but Mikasa ends up saving them. And it's this moment where you think, oh cool, the scouts executed one of their plans perfectly, but then Kenny the Ripper comes in, and some of these other characters who were just introduced to got brutally killed. And this time, instead of body parts missing, we just got parts of their head blown off. So the same level of like, okay, here's the kind of slightly gory, shock value aspect of the series in play. In terms of character moments, I really liked the little conversation that Aaron and Historia had, where he mentions that like, oh, you don't really talk that much anymore. It's nice to hear you talk. But him then kind of be like, oh no, it's not that I want you to talk a lot. I actually like it better that you're like this and you only talk occasionally, because who you were before, now that we know that the Krista personality was sort of her acting that way, Aaron just being really honest and saying like, yeah, it always felt like a facade. It always felt a little fake, that it wasn't the real you. You were just doing that to please everyone else. It's nice to have the real you and see that you're not just super happy about everything, while also pointing out to her that like, it's not that you are directionless. You actually have something to look to kind of move towards, and that is getting Ymir back. But there's obviously like complexities around that. Given that she is such the focus of like, the scouts have Historia and she's important, they need to use her correctly and keep her safe. So she can't necessarily do what she wants until she sort of fulfills that role, but we'll get there, I suppose. So I thought that was actually a good conversation, because Aaron and Historia, I suppose, currently are sort of being handled in a way. They're both being treated very carefully. They're VIPs. Everyone seems to want them in some way because they relate to, one, Titan Shifter, that's very important. Historia, what she potentially knows. That is stuff that the royal family, government, all these different factions don't want to come out, and it's important that for our hero characters, they find out what happened. The other big plot point in the episode was that we found out that Pastor Nick was killed, initially seemingly by the. I suppose this is where like there's so many like conspiracy type stuff, but like they basically initially confirmed that he was killed by the military police, was it internal squad from the central wall, and they came out the Trost and tortured and killed Pastor Nick to keep him from spilling those secrets. And then later on, the kidnapping attempt thing that seemed to go wrong, it was Kenny behind it, but I suppose we don't know, like, is Kenny working for someone and he's just doing things his way? And that would be a really interesting way if, like, potentially the royal family members have, like, hired Kenny to do this. That would explain the sense of, like, the difference between like the military police and the confusion, because it was a really intense moment at the end as Levi's kind of thinking it through, and then all of a sudden he's like, the girl beside him is killed and he nearly gets shot himself. It looks like they're in a terrible position here of just like, they have the range advantage with the guns, they seem to be able to use their maneuver gear just as well. How is Levi going to be able to get out of this situation? Obviously they more or less say that he's close to fully 100% healed, so he should be able to do pretty much everything, and I suppose they'll say that he's the most agile on the 3D maneuver gear, so he'll be able to easily like outmaneuver people, even if they have guns. But they're going to be on the run, and it's all going to lead up to, I suppose, where do they go from here? Is someone captured? Do they just escape? Is it just this battle in the city? This is where I suppose we're still waiting for the plot to like properly like, how does it all play out? Because I think this is a full-on arc, if I remember correctly. I've heard people mention this kind of more political based arc, and it goes on for a little while, and it is a little bit of a, I wouldn't say distraction, but it's definitely a move away from it being tons of Titan versus human fights, at the very least. So yeah, there was a scene earlier on in the episode where you just see most of like the kind of scout recruits joking around, having some fun. I think Sasha's the one to mention that it feels like they're back in kind of boot camp, basically. So it was fun to have that, as Aaron is kind of the one who is terrified of leaving the place unclean before Levi gets back, and of course he comes back, instantly just like brushes a finger under one of the tables and it's filthy, and he's like, look, I'll talk about your terrible cleaning job later on, but first we have to focus on this. So I just like that little bit of humor in an otherwise fairly serious show, that like they keep up the odd side of Levi's character where he's this kind of clean freak. So I'm pretty much going to end it there. I don't think there is an incredible amount just yet to talk about within the season, but I think it's a solid start, and I think this political arc could be in a way exactly what we need to get into, I suppose, the more human side of the mystery surrounding the Titans, where we're getting all these reveals about like details about like the Titans, the different Titan powers. Now I think it's time to reveal that, okay, look, the walls are built, like humans built the walls around the Titans for what reason? What like humanity-based reason did this happen for? I suppose is kind of what we're getting into now, with the idea that we're protecting Krista. Eren's also important, and we'll get into it. Commander Erwin also has been captured, and Hanji's going after him. So, you know, a lot of little plot points getting into play, but I think it's a solid start. I wouldn't say mind-blowing in any way, because I do see some people saying that this is one of the weaker arcs. It's kind of on a little bit of a downturn, and then it kind of picks up again towards the end of this arc, going into what happens afterwards. But again, I don't know too much. I'm pretty much new to the story, watching it through the anime. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the first episode of Season 3. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.